Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 20th Finance Committee of the Whole for the Rochester City School Board. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is 6:02 p.m. There are no speakers tonight, and we are going to be reviewing and accepting the minutes of the February 13th Finance Committee of the Whole. Can I get a motion for those?
Second.
Motioned by President Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments related to the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes listed, I don't see them.
Yes, they are listed. If you click on it,
Yeah.
you should be able to click under where it says minutes, and view minutes, it will highlight as and show up. Up next, and just to go over the discussion items tonight, there is a Medicaid compliance report Q4 that is there for you all to review. If you have questions, you can submit them through the board question log. But tonight, we're going to be discussing the Finance Committee purpose and the 24-25 work plan, the Facilities Modernization Program year-end presentation, and former Mayor Tom Richards is here to present on behalf of the Modernization Board, the financial resolution review for September 2024, the review and discussion of the financial reports, and the August 2024 unaudited financial report trends and analysis. And then we'll motion at the end of the discussion for those reports to be moved to the board business meeting, and then we'll wrap up tonight's meeting. So I'm hoping we can stay on track. So by now, everyone should have received a letter from myself addressing the president and the rest of the board members on the finance resource, and I'm just going to read this for the record, that the Finance and Resource Allocation Finance Committee is committed to promoting and advancing student success by facilitating board involvement in the development of the district's annual budget, develop an annual budget process timeline, facilitate annual review of the superintendent's recommended budget, facilitate annual review of the capital improvement plan, review and receive regular reports on the district's financial position, receive, review, and provide recommendations to the board on resolutions for board consideration, recommend budget and finance policies to the board for adoption, and conduct program reviews as part of the budget process. And that is the goal and the function and the purpose of the Finance Committee as it stands today. And so with that, I had at President Elliott's direction that each of the chairs have a focus for the year and some alignment to the strategic plan and our board goals. We have developed a finance calendar for the year, and everyone has been provided with a copy. It's on board docs. But I just want to go over that we moved last year to, in our efforts to further reduce meetings, the finance meeting no longer meets every month, but we do receive and can expect a finance report every single month. And so that will happen at the board business meeting on the months that we are not meeting. And so last month, we had that report in the board business meeting, but this month, we're meeting in person. And for September, we'll be meeting at the finance report will come in the business meeting, we'll meet in October. And so if you look at the calendar, you'll see that it's sort of every other month. They will be an in-person meeting. And I just want to point out that in the fall, we will start going right into the budget calendar and the timeline for that. And there's an estimation that our budget vote will happen in May. And that is just based on historical data and dates, but that is a date that we collaborate with the city on the final adoption date, because by law, they have to vote on the budget as well. And so we've guesstimated May 6th, but that is not in stone yet, and I just want to bring that to everyone's attention. The other piece is that some of the conversations that I've had with the administration and the board president, specifically around the Finance Committee, is that this year we wanted to look and explore the transitioning of ESSER and ARPA leaving the school district, knowing that we have some really aggressive goals for the next couple of years, and financially positioning the district in a way that we are able to honor those goals and put teeth and skin in it with funds, but we also have a limitation on funds. And I know that people in the community and even board members, even myself when I first came in, and I think $1 billion, but the reality is that a lot of that allocation is staffing. And we want to have staff, we need to have staff, and that's part of the issue. So when you have a budget of 1.1 billion, and about 75% is already committed to just staffing, and then you have special education and EOL requirements and mandates that are not funded, but we have to fund, right? The state doesn't fund it, but we have to fund it. That further minimizes the dollars that we have to do other things. And so I just want to share a high-level overview, some of the topics that I have had conversations about and that we're going to create a subcommittee, if you will, so that the work can continue, because the finance meeting doesn't meet every month, and we don't do previews anymore either. So one of those topics, and you will hear us talk about it at the next finance meeting, is going to be the stop arm cameras on school buses. And currently, the way that the state delegation wrote the legislation was that for the big fives, including Rochester, we have to have city council approval first. So while Monroe County was able to launch their red light cameras on stop arms of their school buses, and we have some of the suburban school districts already participating in this program, we have not been afforded the opportunity yet, but we are in a position where we have some alignment with city council right now, and there's some additional conversations that need to be had with our interim superintendent so that he could be brought up to speed with his team. These were conversations that the previous superintendent was having, and so more discussion on that, but I just want to let you all know that that is going to be something coming up for us to further deep dive into and have an understanding. I just want to put on the record that I am not doing the negotiations. That is legal. There are people that the superintendent has allocated to have these conversations at different stages and levels. The second sort of priority, first, let me back up and stop there. Does anybody have any questions on this? Yes, President Elliott.
So, Vice President, one of the concerns I have for the fact that we're not going to be meeting on a monthly basis has to do with when we got caught up in a situation before under a previous superintendent, because we did not look at the June financials. And so my question is, what safeguards are we putting in place to ensure that we are still having what's the word I'm looking for, ethical financial statements?
So if you look, I don't know if you have access, this is on board docs right now. I just happen to have a printed copy in front of me. You can see all of the meetings that are going to be dedicated to finance in person and all of the meetings that are dedicated for these reports, and which reports, right? Because there are different reports that sort of have to come up, so you're right. So I'll give an example. The Finance Committee of the Whole for October will cover a grant annual presentation, but when we don't meet again in November, it'll cover the students' activity reports and the finance report. If you go down to April's meeting, those are budget deliberations, so we'll get a little bit deeper there. But the June 17th meeting is going to be a meeting of the whole in person, and so it'll start that calendar back up again. And then in July, that was in the board business meeting. So great question, but it is keeping an eye on all of the reports and the timing of those reports and aligning them to the month and putting them on paper so that we know in July, these are the reports that the administration is expected to give us related to finances, including the wrap-up of the books and so forth.
Thank you.
Yes. I just want to point out with the cameras on the buses, that the equity is there because our students travel all over the city of Rochester, so this is not targeting any specific students or neighborhoods. This would be universal to all of our buses. And one, it's an issue around safety. But two, there's an opportunity for these red light cameras to generate revenue for this district. And that is sort of the path that we're going to start looking at. What can RCSC as a district and a system do for itself to better position itself, again, as we're transitioning out of the infuse of ARPA long-term to generate revenue in ways that we've never done before. I don't even think we've ever had the conversation of what the district can do. And there are things that we can do. And so that's one of them. And the second one is the Medicaid compliance piece. That office, we just voted on 2 promotions within that department and office. And it wasn't just to be promoting these individuals. They work very hard, and their work is critical to student success here too. But there's some opportunities to ensure that that department and that office has the supports in place, because we've heard from our Medicaid compliance officer year after year that we unfortunately, because of changes in New York State on how SIN numbers get transferred and matched, it left us with money on the table. We're leaving reimbursement dollars on the table that we're eligible for. We're entitled to those dollars. We provided the services, but because the department and the office in its current structure cannot handle some of the changes too, again, that the state made. And so I know that there are conversations at the state, the county, and local levels around these, what's called a customer information number or a SIN, to do the matches. There's another significant change that's coming down the pipeline with the Medicaid 115 waiver that will allow for even expansion on reimbursement for some of our transportation for special ed students. But we have to be ready for that opportunity, and we're not currently ready for the opportunity, and we're also currently leaving about 1.2 to 1.5 million per year on the table in reimbursements. And that is a significant amount to keep ignoring and acting like there's nothing that we can do internally to correct that and adjust and align those things to the changes that the system at the state level has had. Okay. And I'll stop there if there's any questions about that second one. Commissioner Griffin?
Please let me know if I'm not on track, but I guess my concern would be, I heard you said that you don't do the previews on the finances. You don't do the previews, but you want to hire another team to support the finance department? I just want to make sure I understood you, that's all.
Nope. We're looking at the Medicaid compliance internal office, and I just want to be clear, I would not be hiring. There's some conversations we're having internally with the administration related to what the department supports need to look like. I don't know 100% what that's going to look like yet, but I do think there has to be some deeper conversations to ensure that that office is ready for the changes that are coming down the pipeline, and that we don't keep leaving money on the table.
So, if I understand you correctly, these will be Medicaid experts that are experts in that area then that will be assisting?
Yeah, it would be,
Okay.
well, yes, and also whatever titles or positions that the superintendent and his team will have conversations on. It will come to the board, but I just want to prepare you all that the conversations are being had, and the reason, when we get to the point where there's a resolution brought forth from the administration, it will be a topic on the finance committee to further discuss before we vote. We'll have a focus on that conversation.
Thank you.
Yes. Any additional questions? I've been working, y'all. I've been busy. So the third sort of area of sort of misalignment that has happened, unfortunately, throughout the years is that the Rochester Education Foundation that currently exists was originally created to support the district. And over time, and because of individuals and bad blood, if you will, the relationship sort of has deteriorated. And there is a new ED there. She's been there over a year now, but there's fresh blood in there. But it has sparked these conversations of better aligning that foundation back with the district, right? Because it was created with the intentions to support the district for things that we technically wouldn't traditionally fundraise for. And I'll give an example. When we have a classroom teacher who maybe she needs brand-new telescopes, and that is not part of the superintendent's budget at this time, or there is no space in the budget for it, we have the opportunity, with alignment with the Education Foundation, to speak with them, work with them, and let them run the fundraiser and purchase the items to make the donation. And that's just one example I can think of. By law, I'll guess I put this on record as a reminder, we don't encourage, and folks are not allowed to do these one-off GoFundMes, especially in a school district. And it sounds bizarre, but in reality, when you are collecting money on behalf of the district, that becomes taxpayers' property, including those dollars, and there's a level of accountability and understanding of what was purchased, where's the money used ethically, and so forth, and where's the equipment, the inventory, and all those pieces. So just want to acknowledge that I know that these things happen, and folks do it out of the need to meet their own needs, especially in the classroom. But my goal is that we as a district have a method that anyone in the district can access and work with and have an understanding of how to do a fundraiser, but do it legally, ethically, and with supervision and support, and in collaboration with the district, not necessarily that they're off doing a GoFundMe on their own. That is the second part of this school year that I will be bringing that up. There are some priorities with the red light cameras on the school buses and the Medicaid compliance piece that also impacts our students getting their services and meeting the IEP needs. And so, again, having, for the first time ever, our eyes on that. And I'll stop there. I'll bring the two more in October because that's a lot. It's going to be a lot of work, but I am confident in the administration and their understanding of the complications of some of these topics and navigating them. I just want to be mindful that the state has been having conversations about their Medicaid restructuring for years, and we're in our third reiteration of it now. And if we don't align ourselves, we're going to miss out on some opportunities. That's all. So, any questions regarding any of those things? Okay. So next up, we're going to hear from our former mayor, Tom Richards, who is now the chair for the Modernization Board. And we're going to get an update.
Vice President, if I can
Yes.
point a person privilege, I just want to thank the former mayor, Tom Richards, for taking on this work. Chairman Richards has been doing this since just about the inception of this project. We appreciate all that what he's doing. He does not have to do it, but Chairman Richards has a commitment to this community, like all of us, and has been doing it for a very long time. And I just wanted to publicly thank you, Chairman Richards, for all of the work that you're doing and to be long-serving on this project. We've got, as we talked a few minutes, got a few more years till the entire project is completed. But this started back, actually, back in 2006, and maybe even before, but I was on the board in 2006. And I remember it starting under Manny Rivera. And so it's been a long time, and in a few years we'll be at completion of it. And just wanted to publicly thank you and the committee for all of this great work. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. I reached a stage in my life here where when I get introduced, everything that I've ever done has the word former in front of it. And so it's a pleasure to be involved in something where I'm not former yet, but I'd like to get to that point. I'd like to get this project to the point where I'm former in that as well. We gave to you, at your request, what's going to be a series of regular periodic reports. We can do it at any interval that you think is appropriate, but I think we're set up to do it now quarterly. I'd be interested when you get a chance to look at the report. If it meets your needs, if it doesn't, tell us what it is that you would like me to do or us to do, and we'll be glad to do it. You can do that when you want to. You can do it today, or you can do it whenever you get around to it or it occurs to you. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You have it in front of you and you can see it. Some of it just simply lays the groundwork. Most of you are familiar with this project because it's been before you a number of times. And we're at the stage now where we're implementing the strategic plan that, in fact, was done largely at your request and with your leadership. And there's some good news today, so I appreciate the timing of this, because we've been coming here for quite a while here in the last couple of years and explaining how we had to get certain things approved and we couldn't do anything until we got it. Well, we've gotten the principal one approved. And I should say you've gotten it, in the sense that the strategic plan, which has 4 parts to it, the first part is the education part, has been signed off on by the state education department. And that is what we needed to get started, and we now can start. We've already selected architects for 2 of the schools, School 9 and for Wilson Magnet, and so they'll be starting now. We hope to have an architect in place for Franklin, the biggest of all the projects, in September. And that's what needs to be done to get this thing to the point where we can start construction. Construction could start at the end of 2025, maybe in the fall of 2025. Enough work would have been done to get us there. And the first tranche of bonds, these projects are all, as you know, paid for ultimately by bonds. The first tranche of those could probably occur in the same time frame. You obviously need the first bonds to be issued to do any real construction where the big money is spent. And that, of course, would be when we wind up paying back the district for the money they've advanced to get the project to this point in the same time frame. The regulatory approval that we got is wonderful. It gets us started, but there are approvals on every step of the way here. And there will be more of them. We will have to go through more processes to make sure we're constantly approved by the state. There are some issues with respect to the approval we got that's conditional, some of which are causing us a little anxiety with respect to School 9. But, we're working on it with Jacob Scott. And you can expect that to be occurring all the way through. I'm not here to complain about it. I'm here to just remind you that there's more to come in that regulatory process. I think if you look in the document that I gave you and you look at starting page 4, what we've said here is a series page 4 through page 6. What we've done is sort of shown you the construction part, the facilities part of the plan in a different format. I think it was a little hard to extract that from that big document that was filed and had a lot of other things in it. So I appreciate you taking a look at this and see if it's helpful. If it's not, we'll do something different. But it gives the highlights for each of these schools. And that's what we're going to care about from here on in. We're going to be talking about what we're doing in the individual schools. And it tells how much we're going to propose to spend, the timing, and those things. It's an interesting, and I suspect your constituents will ask you questions that relate to this kind of information. What people want to know is, well, when are you going to do something? When is my school going to get modernized? When do I have to move? When does this happen? When does that happen? And that information is in those pages. I'd like to just close my part of this by giving you sort of my impression of the things we need to keep an eye on. As we go forward here, what should we be looking at here to make sure this project is going to run smoothly? One of them I've already mentioned, and that is we have this series of regulatory approvals that are required. If that bogs down, that will stop the schedule progress. The schedule progress itself, if it's bogged down, causes us problems. Remember, we've got to line up with the school school year. And we're moving, in some cases, populations of students into other spaces while we do the work, so it's safe. That means if you slide the schedule and you miss one of those dates, you can miss a whole school year. And so it has a criticality with respect to these schedules that is somewhat different than otherwise. We're dealing with old buildings. Franklin is 100 years old. It is also was, when it was built, the largest high school in the state, maybe even the largest high school in the East. It has 500,000 square feet. So there's school districts that don't have 500,000 square feet in all their buildings. That means that when you deal with buildings like this, you run into things that you didn't anticipate. We're going to run into those things. The question is, can we manage them properly? Are any of them going to slow this thing down or get in the way? We hope not. A lot of work has been done on it. But one of the reasons that we won't be ready to construct until the next year's fall is the architects and engineers we've hired have to investigate the building to determine that the building is in fact as it represented to be, and we're not going to run into something. Franklin, for instance, we're going to air condition, which means we've got to run pipes and wires and all kinds of things throughout the building in a way that was never done before. The other thing that's critical, and President Elliott has asked me about this several times, is whether or not we can hold the budget. Construction costs have gone up dramatically and has sidelined a number of projects, a number of public projects. I think somebody told me the other day that the Bills Stadium is $1 billion over budget.
Oh, wow.
We'll do better than that. But we've tried to address that issue by updating the numbers that we have. We're not relying on the original numbers that were put together when the legislation passed. We also have hired some people who have common expertise and current expertise in current jobs, so we can use the numbers as best we can. But nonetheless, that's an issue we've got to keep our eye on. And so far, if you look at the only bids we've had are for architects and engineers, they've come in about where we would expect. But we're going to have to pay attention to that. The other thing that is left over from COVID is that a number of the kinds of materials and equipment that we'll be doing, the HVAC, the air conditioning, the electrical equipment, has long lead times, some of them as long as 2 years. And we're going to have to work our way around that somehow. We've anticipated that as best we can, but it could turn into be a problem, and it louses up the schedule. So we have to keep an eye on that as well. There's a labor shortage in general, construction labor. There are a lot of big projects going along in the eastern part of this state, or the western part of the state, and the ability to have enough labor to keep the schedule and to apply to the jobs. All of those are just things that this kind of project attracts. It's that kind of issue. But we need to pay attention to it, and you should. I say, when you look at these documents we give you and look at these reports we give you, one of the things I'm suggesting is, are those issues addressed? Are those issues addressed? So that was all I really wanted to say. I want to answer any questions you have. I'm happy to discuss it in any way you would like me to, but I didn't want to sit here and read the report to you.
Thank you. We appreciate that, too. Any questions? Commissioner Santiago?
Yeah, just very quickly. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I think that is very, the information there is good to read and to understand. I think all the information is there, so no judgment on that. I just have a question that may also go towards the superintendent, but I know with the reconfiguration plan, part of the reasoning of the reconfiguration was to separate the middle school and the high school due to cultural issues. And I'm seeing that in some of the swing spaces that there may be possibilities of us going back to a place where we're mixing the middle schools and the high schools together. And so I'm just wondering, what's the plans on that? Because I know the reasoning of the reconfiguration was to separate the two. And also, just to see if I know that this was a plan, but, how can we get to a place where we're trying to live up to the reconfiguration?
From our point of view, and the superintendent really should answer the first part of that, but from our point of view, we have tried to make the schedule and the sequence that goes here fit into the reconfiguration as much as possible. Not just in the end, where it clearly will, but as we go through this process. And one of the advantages of the timing here, which we don't deserve too much credit for, was that reconfiguration was going on while we were doing the planning. So we knew about it, it was anticipated, the district knew about it, and when the decisions were made about how we treat some of these schools, that was in mind. But you're right, in the interim, before we finish these schools and everybody gets back to where the new configuration, there will be some inconvenience associated with it.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yeah, just more of a statement. I just wanted to thank you for your brevity with the presentation because you added a lot of thorough conversation and context, which was a lot more relevant to me. I can look through the details and raise questions as they come, but I just wanted to thank you also for just reminding us as we think about what this will take, what goes into it. Example, what you said about Franklin and the edifice and having to assess the building before actually digging in. Sometimes we want things to happen so quickly, but that reminder was helpful. Thank you.
Commissioner Griffin?
Yes, I also would like to thank you for taking the time to put this design and construction together. I have a question, probably relevant to probably all the locations, and particularly Franklin. How about, or because there's a time frame and when this is going to be done, and you're going to have to, push it out because they have to come in and check the structure and check different things. My only concern would be is safety issues as it stands with some of the schools. So I guess I don't know if you could answer that or someone else would have to answer, but my concern is the safety concerns that is in some of the schools that were there last school term, and they're still there presently. How have they been addressed, and how is that going to affect everything?
From our point of view, the serious testing, the destructive testing where you poke holes on the wall and do stuff like that, are all done when the students aren't in the building. So they may do it at night, or they may do it over the vacation or over the weekend, but part of the requirement we have in place is that you can't do that kind of work when the kids are in the school and using the facility. If nothing else, is disruptive, and maybe worse.
So thank you, former Mayor Richards. Just an FYI, that's one of the inputs we've been working on. Just because Franklin is in the process of getting redone and things of that nature, we've still been working, Chief Scott and his staff have been working very diligent with all of the school leaders throughout the district to make sure that buildings are up to par regardless of going through FMP. So that work still has not stopped, that we continue to make sure that all schools are ready to be open.
One thing that actually you didn't ask, but I think it would be a good thing to mention, one of the significant parts of the modernization project is to improve the safety context with respect to the schools physically. Entranceways, ability to control coming and going, which are often difficult in older schools, which never had that in mind. So those are one of the design criteria that will play an important part in this program.
Sir?
All right, thank you, Commissioner Malloy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Superintendent Strickland, for raising that point about inputs. I just want to thank you so much, Mayor Richards, for your presentation. It's obvious there was a lot of work that went into this as a team, and so thank you so much for presenting this to us and for the brevity as well tonight. If we have any questions, Superintendent, further questions about how this relates to our academic plan, et cetera, how that all fits in. What would be the date that we would need to get those types of questions in so that that can be discussed with this team?
I would say let myself and Commissioner Elliott, or President Elliott, discuss a plan going forward, and we can possibly talk about that in our next board officers meeting.
Perfect.
To really make sure that we're being responsive to your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. No
Absolutely.
questions at this time.
We look, Jacob Scott is a vice chairman of the board, so we look to him for our contact through, with the district.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Jacob, but
Yeah. Okay, I think that concludes
let
this.
me say one thing while I've got your attention.
I'm sorry, President Elliott also wanted to, so there's two more.
Okay.
I'm going to call, I'll let President Elliott finish, so I'll call on Commissioner Santiago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just very quickly, I should have added this in my first question, but I see that some of these are repairs, and things like that. But my question is for the add-ons, like the flexible class spaces, the CTE spaces. I was just wondering if you guys were taking some time to get some advice from the students, or to have some student voice heard, when it comes to some of the new things that will be going into this plan.
Yeah, for each of the projects, each of the schools, there's what was called, at least last time, a building advisory group. It's often led by the principal of that school, and that's a mechanism, and students. We have to be a little careful there because there are some financial limits we're dealing with here, and we don't want to create a feeling that you can, have anything you want. But there is lots of room around those numbers for input, and particularly the principals feel that way. I'll tell you, one of the areas that is particularly important in is security. And they know what the problems are, and what they're having difficulty managing, and so that's a valuable kind of input to have. But that's part of what the architect and engineer for each of these projects is required to do.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I'd love to see, if we can have conversation with the students too about, how, I know that this is modernization, but how do we also add art, into after the modernization, to add art, let the young people, create the space to be a safe space with art and different things of that sort. But that's after. That has nothing to do with you.
Right,
It's just something I want to put out there.
If I can also add to that, I've asked the chairman to present to the Student Leadership Congress. And so the chairman has agreed to do that, so.
I just wanted to remind the public and everyone that these plans have been being developed for, years. I actually remember being a school chief at School 9 when parents were talked with, along with students, about what they wanted for their schools. So I do know that process happens, and that is how some of that information came to be, where these plans were developed through that type of input.
President Elliott, to our interim superintendent's point, to Tom Richards, and even to Commissioner Santiago trying to uplift, making sure students have input, but also this has been a very long time. Even before I came on the board, when I joined, you guys were just finishing phase 1, and then phase 2, and now we're in phase 3. But what I've learned is that this is why there's a separate board. This is why the state delegation gets involved and also votes on this, and state ed. And I think what becomes difficult is that it almost feels like a decade ago this started, and some of those parents and students have moved on, and now there's new voices that want to be at the table. But because this takes a very long time, and we're talking about billions at stake here, I just want to put that out to the public that, yes, there was this opportunity for open sessions at the schools. I attended some as well when Sophia was 5. Sophia was 5, Sophia's 13 now. So this is a very long time ago as a parent going in to give input. And I just don't know how much more input we can receive at phase 3, because we're sort of at the tail end, hoping that we wrap these up. I do know that there have been conversations about a potential phase 4 in the future once we get past phase 3, because we still have buildings that need to be updated. And I think this is going to be a continuous cycle anyway. But to keep our also mindset on, even if there is a phase 4, ensuring that that has, because I don't think there's going to be a phase 5 the way that this has been, but I think we have the structure in place with this board to push for another phase in the future. That's the goal. And ensure then, and start having those conversations and sort of being mindful of when they might happen. Because even Commissioner Santiago, as the chair of our Community and Governance Relations, these are things that you could be hosting as a board member for the board to speak with the community and invite that board as well to be a part of those conversations. Anyone else regarding, President Elliott, yep, and then Reverend.
So Chairman Richards, what I'd like for you to do is to be able to talk about the impact that $1.2 billion has had in our economy. And if you can also speak to the MWBE component to this project for our community.
Yeah, each of the programs, each of the projects have requirements with respect to MWBE, both respect with employees and also with respect to contracting. In other words, who gets portions of the work. We have a fairly significant enforcement issue there. There's an independent compliance officer that's actually a member of the board that doesn't vote, but attends all the meetings, reviews all the contracts, and has the ability, and does actually do inspections in the field to make sure we're getting what we're paying for here. So it has a significant impact. And there are probably half a dozen small businesses that have been created by this program, simply because they got their start there. And this program has an advantage in that regard because it does go on for a number of years. There are a number of different projects. One of the real problems, as I'm sure you all know, with the MBE contracting program, it can be for one project and then what do you do? You know, and the idea is that you're going to get your feet under you and be established with just one project is probably unrealistic. But for us, it's a series of projects that go on over 5 or 6 years, can really get you on your feet. And plus, we've spent now, we'll spend over $1 billion in this community. And that money, most of it, with respect to the contracting at least, has been here. With the people who get these jobs are local, and the people who work on them are local as well. So it's had a huge impact. That's a big number, and it's sort of run under the radar scope. You know, we hold a press conference if you got $100,000, but, you know, this really has been a very significant impact on the community. And it's part of what justifies the fact that the state is so engaged in providing this money.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to the board that you work with and all of the colleagues who, there's so many people involved in modernization, and I know the public sees one individual come up, but there is a large effort and a lot of people who dedicate and spend a lot of time, not just having these conversations, but actually doing the work, multiple walkthroughs, responding to even this board's sort of questions and feedback, but recommendations. We've had a long dance, y'all. So with that, I thank you.
Let me just say to conclude here that
Yes.
This is a unique project. It provides a very unique amount of money into this community and into this school district. I wish it was simpler. I wish we didn't have to go through all of these hoops and have all of these different mechanisms to do it. And it sort of tires you out. But it is very significant and it does a great thing. And if those of you who have had a chance to go into the schools that have been modernized, it really is a different feel to it. And there's no reason why our kids shouldn't have that kind of impression and that kind of facility, just as much as some kid lives in Victor.
Come on now, Tom.
So I think it's really important. And we ought to remember that when we get annoyed and frustrated at the fact we have to go through all these hoops. Because I think, personally, that's why I've been doing it all this time. I think it's worth it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we'll give you a clap. Thank you, Tom. So, Up next is, on here is the draft resolutions for September. And let me just say, because this has come up a few times already, in the past, we did not get these resolutions so far in advance. This has been a effort of the administration, the previous state monitors, sort of pushing for us to have them. Are there changes, sometimes up to 24 hours, because by law and policy, we allow that as well? Yes. But the goal is that we can start reviewing these, and there should be very minimal changes to these things. If there's a change, again, it should be minimal, and there needs to be an explanation to that change attached to the resolution or uploaded into board docs, or the justification or the reasoning. And I just want to also uplift, to give some grace for staff, because sometimes there's just human errors on the resolution, or something that sort of came up, which is why we have a process called the walk-on resolutions. It could be, one year, we were all on school break, one of the pipes burst in the school, and there needed to be a walk-on resolution, right, to hire the folks to come in and clear out all the water and to fix the damages. And so those situations happen. We don't need to go into them tonight, but I just want to let everyone know that they're here. And very few changes should be occurring in the 24 hours, but it does. Up next, after that, is the finance report with our new CFO, right? It's an intro? Oh, acting CFO, but I'm going to say CFO, come on up. And he will give us our finance report and overview.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. I hope you bear with me for the time being. It's going to take me a little bit of time to get acclimated to this role. It's nice to meet you all, and I look forward to working with you. I'm going to go over this very high level. I've only been in the role for a short amount of time, so I don't want to get too much in the weeds. It's going to take a little bit of time to unpack what's going on. The first part is our cash balance on page 5, Tom. We've got a good cash balance. Our position's good. We've got, as you can see, $301 million
Ooh, Jesus.
available. I think we're good for a while. On page 6 and 7, you'll see that we've got about $10 million in receipts and transfers that happened in July, with total disbursements of around $68 million. So it's pretty typical, and you can see by the graph on page 7 that we're right in the same spot as we were last year. On pages 8 and 9 is our revenue summary report. There's nothing of note other than the addition of $475,000 in the general fund. This was it started with a $15 million transfer for the Invest for Tomorrow. $11 million was budgeted in the 23-24 fiscal, and $4 million was supposed to be in 24-25. It was determined that $475,000 was for summer work, so there was a determination was made that we needed to transfer that to the current fiscal year. Section D, pages 10 through 13. This is our appropriation by function. It's been pretty busy. It's the start of the fiscal year, so we've got about 74% available in our general fund, 84% available in grants, and around 66% available in school food service funds. Again, this is pretty typical for this type of year. I mean, we got a lot of encumbrances getting ready for the school year, purchasing items. The next section is our SRSA and ARP Special Aid Fund report, pages 14 and 15. Not much to really talk about. We're about $219 remaining in SRSA, and $632,000 in ARP, and we're closing all that out, so that should be done relatively soon. Section 5 in pages 16 and 24, this is listing our journal entries. There's nothing really of note here. Our capital projects budget status is in pages 25 through 29. Again, there's nothing really of note there either. Capital projects, there's some of the significant changes are listed, including, our initial budget load. There's not a lot going on, and I think there's Section K, the Oracle software transition. I've really been mostly involved with the Oracle, and that's been my role over the last couple of years. So I've been knee-deep in that. I have a lot of knowledge on where we are position-wise with Oracle. Feel free to ask me any questions in regards to that. But I don't really have anything else on the financial report. Feel free to read it over and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. And I want to apologize that I did not mention that your name is Derek Blair for the listening audience, and this is our acting Chief Financial Officer, but Derek has been with the district a very, very long time, and so you are a finance expert. I just want to put that out there because the way I pronounced it and then you came up and did it, I just want the listening audience to know. I just also want to point out to my colleagues, just keeping everything that we've learned in the last 2 days, that as I'm looking through these reports, I feel like we might be in the weeds here too. And so I do want to just let you, Derek, know, and my colleagues, that I'm going to step back, not in this moment, but have a conversation with legal and the administration and our state monitor about what is legally required for us to put out there and how we can probably refocus some of these conversations to better align them, because I know that we get these things, but in reality, I don't know how much we need to know that the district spent, $42 on, I don't even know, on a paper, a box of papers, right? And so that's how much details we're getting. I just want to put that out there. So an FYI to my colleagues, I'm hoping to have that conversation before the next in-person finance meeting, which will not be till October. So more to come on that, because as I'm reading through this, I'm like, we're not, and we've been making you all do heavy lifts for a very long time. And so there is some realignment, and to the public, we've all spent and committed, I think, 20 hours. That's what it feels like for me, 20 hours of my life in the last 2 days. And it was a good training for us to understand governance a little bit better and how to align this work. So an FYI to all. But any questions on any of that? President Elliott.
I do appreciate that, and I think
Tell
we
tell
do
me your
need
name
to-
again?
Derek Blair?
Derek Blair.
Derek, so with regard, and let me just ask if I could ask this question, because it's not necessarily on the agenda. I did want to ask about the Oracle and how, where we are with that. Is that okay to ask?
I would prefer actually that goes on the board
Okay.
docs, or we can bring it up on a Thursday, the board business meeting, because that tends to be more general, and we can ask the superintendent to give us an update.
It's fine.
Thank you.
I'm free to schedule any time if you want to talk to me personally, too.
Thank you for that. Commissioner
you.
Santiago?
Yeah, I just want to very quickly just uplift positively the district and their financial status. Seeing a couple years ago, what were we, Beatrice, like 60 million in debt?
The what?
60 million in debt a couple years ago? How many
deficit?
million? Yeah.
No, it was like 35 million.
Okay, so going from 35 million to where we are, you know, is a great progress. So it's good to see, and also seeing in many of the surrounding districts, you know, seeing that they really had to tap into the savings account and pull so much money out to where they may not be in the best financial status. It's good to see that this district is still keeping its head above the water even through the inflation and much money leaving like the art money and things like that. So
Yeah,
just
the federal
showing
relief funds.
gratification to you guys.
And we can't spend it. I mean, we could, you know, because we don't know what things are gonna look
Right.
like in the future. So I'm not saying not spend any of it, but I'm saying we've got to be careful. We've got this, we've never been in this position before. And to be in this is a great place to be in. But we
Agreed.
can't allow outside influences to make us spend it. We've got to be very careful. We've got to say no when we need to say no and be the bad guy. So I just wanted to put that on record. Yeah, we've got to look for our children in the future. So that's important. So, all right.
I really think the federal relief funds helped us out, but we still have a lot of challenges, a lot of things we didn't really work on because we had the influx of cash from relief funds. We really need to start right-sizing some things, and I'm here to help with that.
Thank you for that. And just so you know, we also are aware, especially with ARPA and Esther leaving, that, yeah, it has to be two ways, right? It's great if we go out and try to figure out ways that the district can actually generate revenue, not leave funding on the table, but it does us no good if we're not also fixing internally
Right.
some of the areas that we're bleeding and we're not having the outcomes that we want to see and the results for our students. So know that this board, I believe right now in my heart, that this board makeup is committed to focusing on the goals and doing this alignment work. So yeah, I'm feeling still hopeful from the last 2 days. So thank you for that. You did a
welcome.
wonderful job in your first
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank
Oh, I'm
you.
sorry, Commissioner Malloy has one thing she wants to, and
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say it's so nice to meet you, Mr. Blair.
Nice to meet you too.
Welcome,
Thank you.
and looking forward to working with you. And this is a fine report, lots of information here, but thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
And with that, can I get
Chair
a,
LeBron, one quick question.
Oh, yes.
All right. We have some conversation before, but going back to see the revenue summary, does the board need to make some adjustment to the budget because that dollar amount is adding to the budget that was approved by the board in May?
Yeah, we're working on a resolution right now. Hopefully, it'll be done by tomorrow.
Thank you.
Meaning that the budget gets adjusted upward. Okay.
because there was an increase in revenue, so we have more money that we anticipated, so we have to do a budget amendment.
Yep.
Good luck with that, I'm working on mine. So thank you for that, and hopefully that happens this Thursday, and FYI. If not, we can bring it in the next special meeting, which I believe is happening next Tuesday. And just so the public is aware, it would be a budget amendment to add additional revenues that came in more than we anticipated, which is a good thing. With that, can I get a motion to forward the financial reports, which is the unaudited financial report and trends analysis for August 2024, moved by President Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Santiago. Any questions or additional comments regarding this report? All those in favor? Aye. And I voted for you all to vote on it in the Thursday's board business meeting, so we're just moving it out of committee, and then you all will have to vote again on it on Thursday. And with that, just a reminder, the Medicaid compliance report Q4 is there. If you choose to do the board meeting poll, it's there. There is no executive sessions tonight, and so with that, can I get a motion to conclude? Motions by Commissioner Santiago, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. All those in favor? Aye. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.